What is up, mathletes? Welcome back to another episode of Math with Dr. Math, and today we're going to talk about frequency distributions for qualitative data. All right, mathletes, so let's talk about these frequency distribution tables, and we're going to focus in on qualitative data. All right, and they're actually quite easy to construct. So let's take a look here. So for this example, let's pretend we're in a store, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a tally every time someone uses a credit card, and we're going to keep track of what type of credit card they're using. So this person used the Discover, right? This person used the Visa. This person used the American Depressed, and then we have all these cards. Master Debt, right? Discover where your money went, right? So again, we're looking at all these different types of credit cards, bad, and we're gonna keep track of how many times each one of these were used. And we're gonna organize it using a frequency distribution. And we're gonna see how nice this table actually is. So follow me. All right, so let's go ahead and create this table. All right, so what we have here nicely organized is the type of credit cards that we're gonna be using. So for example, every time we saw someone use a MasterCard, we're gonna make a little tally mark. Every time we saw someone using a Visa, we're gonna make a tally mark. And we're gonna go ahead and count how many times were each one of these credit cards used, right? And that's what this tally mark is for, right? You don't need this, but a lot of people like having this to help keep themselves organized, right? Because it's easy to forget or to lose track in your count, right? So once you go ahead and you finished taking all those credit cards into consideration, then we say, all right, how many times was MasterCard used? It was used 11 times. How many times was Visa used? It was used 23 times. And that's what's known as our frequency. All right, so the frequency we could see here is how, in this case, how many times it appeared. All right, so let's get a formal definition down. Copy this down. So here comes our definition. All right, so the frequency of a category is the number of times it occurs in the data set. And that's exactly what we see here. And when we put all this together, that's what gives us the frequency distribution, right? So the frequency distribution is a table that presents the frequency for each category. So make sure you jot that down. And usually you don't have to have this tally, but again, a lot of people have it there just to help them stay organized. All right, mathletes. Now let's talk about this next idea. Follow me. So this next table I want you to copy down is called our relative frequency distribution. Okay, relative frequency distribution. It's going to be a little different, right? Because now you see some decimals and you might be wondering, wait, where'd those decimals come from? And essentially what you're going to be able to do with this relative frequency distribution is we could look at, what percent of data or what percent of people use MasterCard, what percent of people use Visa, right? And so, for example, here, this 0.22 is gonna relate to, it's gonna tell us that 22% of those people that use credit cards in this situation used MasterCard, right? And we go here, we move the decimal place 2 places to the right, or multiply by 100, and you're gonna see that 46% of people that use credit cards at this particular place chose Visa. All right, and so I'm going to show you how to make these calculations. All right, but before you do, we got a little definition for you to make sure you understand what the heck a relative distribution is. A relative frequency distribution, excuse me. So a relative frequency distribution is a table that presents the relative frequency of each category. Often the frequency is also listed, just like we have here in Dr. Math Studios. All right, so how in the heck do we get these numbers? Well, follow me, let's take a look. All right, so the process isn't actually too bad, right? So how did we get these numbers? So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add up all these frequencies. We need the total number of credit cards that were used in that situation. So we add up the 11, 23, 9, and 7. So that's step 1. And we add up those frequencies and you see that it's 50. All right. So N, which is used to represent our total, equals 50. So that's step 1. All right. Step 2, then you take any situation, any credit card that you want to look at. So for example, if I want to look at the relative frequency for MasterCard, I take the frequency, which is 11, and I divide it by how many credit cards we had, the total frequency, which was 50. And so when I divide that, I end up with 0.22. And so that's what gave us our relative frequency. And we're gonna do that for every single one of these credit cards, right? So we're gonna take 23 divided by 50. We're gonna take 9 divided by 50. We're gonna take 7 and divide it by 50. And that's how we get our relative frequency, just like we show down here. And this together is our relative frequency distribution. Any questions? All right, so before we head out of here, let's make sure you know the difference, right? So the difference between the frequency and the relative frequency is that the frequency of the category is the number of items, right? We're counting the numbers. You don't have decimals, you're just counting 1, 2, 3, however many objects you have in that category, right? The relative frequency is the proportion, right? We saw the division taking place of the items in that category. All right, mathletes, so if this was helpful, easy to follow along, don't forget to give us a like. We put a lot of time and effort behind these videos, and we're trying to help out as many people as possible. So go ahead and subscribe, share this link with a friend or 10,000, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.